Hey there, I am Andy Chanley, and it's my pleasure to introduce this Rogues Gallery to you. Ladies and gentlemen, the people of 100.3 The Sound. This is a green room interview for the Los Angeles Department of Recreation and Parks. I want to introduce on the screen here, we've got Dave Beasing, who is the program director of 100.3 The Sound.
That's, I'm in the center square, I believe. Yes.
Next to him is Uncle Joe Benson, ladies and gentlemen.
Hi.
On the program.
Ooh.
How'd you get me out of the house?
We did.
How'd you do that?
That's the secret. We did. Also on the screen is Miss Rita Wild.
Hey, Dave. Hey, folks.
Then you have Mimi Chen.
Yo.
Hey.
Memes.
The flower child, and Larry Morgan joining us as well from his break from K-Earth 101. Thanks, everybody. Give yourself a round of applause for coming back together. But let's go around the room and find out what everybody's doing. Dave, why don't you start it off, because you were the one that hired us all at one point or another.
I'm to blame.
Yeah, tell us about your thoughts, your memories about 100.3 The Sound, and what it meant to Southern California in your estimation.
It was a very enjoyable experience, thanks to the people on the screen, and thanks to some others who are not with us today, like Gina Grad and some of the weekend folks, Steve Hoffman, Mary Price, Tony Scott,
Cynthia Fox.
Cynthia Fox, Sherry Donovan started on weekends, and then she ended up being paired with Larry, and she was the Sherry half of Larry and Sherry for a time. Mark Thompson.
A guy named Mark Thompson worked there for a while. Yeah.
Yes, he did, as a matter of fact. And Josh Flieger was on the air some on that morning show too. And so many people, other people who I know I've just annoyed by not mentioning, but people behind the scenes as well.
A few people like Mike Sherry, we were just talking about. We didn't know if Uncle Joe would show without his producer, Mike Sherry. Also, Danny, producer Danny from the morning show, Danny Mizrahi. Who are some other people?
Julie Slater.
Julie Slater. For
Dred
many
Scott.
years. Dred Scott, well done. Mike Powers, a name from the early going. Mm-hmm. Also, you have Mark Thompson's daughter and son. They showed up on the show as well. Katie and Skeeter as well. As we think of names, and I'll throw out one of I know a name that was dear to many of us, Kevin Scott. The engineer who basically put the station together physically, electronically in the early goings.
Lots of people behind the scenes. We could go on, and as well as some other people on the air that we probably have missed. But it was a wonderful experience. I think that what made the Sound so special, in addition to people like we've mentioned and that are assembled here, was the audience. The audience really embraced this station, and I think that they sensed that we listened to them and that we cared. And what surprised us is how much they cared back, how much they gave back to us. This station was never supposed to happen by the rules of radio. It was totally a fluke. And so when we went off the air and people would say, come on, you got to find another frequency, you got to come back and all that, other than the possibility of streaming or doing something like that, to land back on FM, it was a lightning strike that had ever happened once, because the demographics of Los Angeles really didn't support it 12 years ago and really wouldn't support it now. We had to be creative. We had to innovate in order to last, and because there was no traditional rules of radio path for us. There was no hole in the line of scrimmage, or whatever metaphor you prefer to use. So we had to be creative and take on great people like the people that are on the screen, and encourage them to be creative each and every time they went into the studio. And that's what made this such a fun project from start to finish.
Let's go boy, girl here. Rita Wild, I think that my first question for you is for your welfare. How are you coping without any baseball?
I got the schedule for 2021, the new season.
Rita Wild, was at KLOS for 26 years? Is that right?
26, 27, and then went back for about another, I think I was hired. I never never mind.
Well, did you get a check, Rita? I guess
I got
you.
checked.
Okay.
I got notification from AFTRA that I was hired, I think, in October, so that was cool. And then that lasted about till November of 2018. But it was fun. It was nice to go back. And, I'm just so blessed and grateful that I had my KLOS experience and then the sound experience, which was really, really wonderful. Like I've stated before, I was a listener of the station, and I really, really loved it. And then when Dave gave me the opportunity to work there, it was like I found a new home. What was different about the sound were the listeners, and the bonding and the fact that I still am in contact with so many of those people. They just made it wonderful, made it great.
The bond that we had with the listeners was really tight. There's a group on Facebook, the Sound LA Radio Family, and there's also a page called the Sound 100.3 The Sound Legacy page. Is that right, Mimi?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And those groups are very active on Facebook. And in fact, I recently laid the analytics of those groups up against some stations that are still on the air. And we have a more active audience on Facebook than most of Los Angeles does today that's still on the air. So that's saying something.
Joe Benson is with us, and a voice that I remember one of the first that I heard when I came to Los Angeles in 1997, heard on KLOS. Well, Arrow 93 at that point, right?
What year was it?
97? I think that's right. You were all over the place.
I was all over the place.
An institution in Southern California radio. Tell us about your fondest memories of the sound, because it sure seemed like you were always having a pretty good time there, Joe.
That's the idea. That's the idea right there. Nothing better than fun. I've been on the air for 52 years. I spent 14 to 17 at KLOS.
Where can people catch you now?
There's probably going to be an announcement within the next week or so. I'm not in charge of announcements, but it's going real well. Ultimate Classic Rock. A lot of people stream off of that.
Let's move to the Flower Child for just a second. Mimi Chin, I know where Mimi's working these days on the radio. Mimi, tell us about what you're doing now, and then tell us about your memories of 100.3 The Sound and what the station meant to you.
Well, as they say, if it weren't for the flashbacks, I wouldn't have much memories. But actually, I will say that thanks to Dave insisting that I should use the moniker The Flower Child, it has become sort of my, nom de plume, so that it has really created a great community around the show. Peace, Love, and Sunday Mornings was the show at the Sound, and due to the popularity of the show, that's probably why I got picked up at 88.5. And so I'm just, doing my same thing there, although it's Sunday afternoons, but it's still kind of nice to have that, community from the Sound carry over 88.5.
Well, one of the things that I've been involved with since 100.3 The Sound, I've been working at 88.5 FM as the afternoon host there, and also music director for the last year, and that's been very rewarding. It's been, from a music standpoint, from a people standpoint, and camaraderie, the Sound is, it's the best experience I had in radio ever. From a diversity of music, from an eclectic standpoint, there's just no touching what's happening over there, and it's been really enjoyable for that reason. It's a unicorn among radio stations. But one of the other things I've been involved with is I've been doing a podcast. I actually started before the Sound went away, a month before, with Sam Farmer of the LA Times, the NFL Hall of Fame writer, Sam Farmer, and with Josh Fligger, who was at the station as the programming assistant and also jumped in on Mark in the Morning many times with amazing ideas. And Josh is a font of joy. He's such an enjoyable person to be around. And with this guy over here, Larry Morgan. And, I give Larry a hard time pretty often, but I'm going to say right now that, I've known Larry since the early days of the Sound, and he's been, really like a brother to me all this time. He's been a great friend, and it's been great to be his colleague for all this while. So, don't usually say nice things, so I wanted to make sure I did. Larry is working at K-Earth 101, the #1 station in the market again in the most recent ratings, station that's killed it forever and will continue to kill it. But Larry is the assistant program director there as well, and as we're recording this, getting up early in the morning to do the morning show this week. But congratulations after the fact that you're proving that there is actually commercial radio life after after 100.
It's just so nice to actually get a chance to see you guys, and also have among the other brilliant things that Dave did was allow me to leave to move on to a situation where people were actually listening. So, Dave, thank you for that. It is true. But I'm at a very different situation now, which is terrific, and I've been very happy there. But I have to say that the Sound, like you were saying, Andy, we can all appreciate where we are now and what we're doing now, and there's something super special about what that situation was. And it was special for me in that I wasn't even on the air really at the time that Dave brought me aboard. Dave and I had kind of known each other previously.
That's right.
Just wanted to pick my brain on this new station that was getting started. And we just sat in his office and got really passionate about music. And by the way, the word passion is probably going to come up here a million times, and it's the kind of word that best describes what this station was about. And then he calls me later and says, after our conversation, I was thinking maybe you'd be good doing mornings here. It's like the last thing on my mind. But it immediately made sense. There was just something really special in there. And you all know this, but Andy and you and I have talked about this on the podcast before. When the Sound started, it was very different than what it became. And there is this kind of transition that it went through that was fairly drastic from what we started with, but it was so interesting how it still seemed like a natural progression, and many of us kind of still made that transition. It was considered what at the time was called adult album adult alternative. It was AAA is what people like to call it.
The Auto Club.
Yeah. And that was what I kind of signed on for. And that changed over time because clearly the audience had a hunger for something a little different than that. But the aura of what the Sound was still stayed there, in that we were doing something different, even though the music might have become a little more familiar because we edged into more classic rock over time. We were still doing it in a different way. The attitude didn't change. There was something special about it. The music was at the forefront. We were all passionate about the music. We let the listeners get passionate about the music. And part of, the fun of working at this radio station was meeting somebody like Joe was talking about at these appearances and having these engagements with people who would praise the station, but then also give you a 20-minute dissertation on why we should be playing more Quicksilver messenger service. But that's the kind of place it was, that in a business that is supposedly a big corporate business, we actually were dealing with people on a really grassroots level, talking about a thing they love. And there's nothing that people get more passionate about than music. And we were there to serve that purpose. And we also showed them every day that we felt the same way they did. So it was a great thing to be a part of. I have a very different situation going on now that I enjoy very much with people I love working with. But this whole experience was super special.
Yeah, it really was a special group of people that you won't you won't get that kind of group of people together again ever.
You have been gracious to give me credit. My boss, Peter Burton, deserves a shout out because he tolerated ups and downs in the ratings and was our biggest fan, biggest cheerleader. If the ratings were off just a little bit, he would call me within 24 hours and tell me he thinks he's hearing more Elton John. But that was his instinct on it. He never he might voice concerns to me, but he wasn't going to voice concerns to ownership. He was always in our corner. You mentioned the salespeople. Sharon Kramer somehow found a way to hide the liquor on the annual Christmas party bill. But our social media presence that is still strong to this day. Sam Peasley was amazing.
Yep.
Keith Weiner succeeded him. And on the streets, Chris Santoyo became
the best.
Just such a phenomenal promotions director.
Chris Santoyo, whenever you went to an event and you saw him, you're like, everything's taken care of. Let's end by going around and saying where you can be found these days, where you want people to reach out to you if they could possibly care about any of us. But I'll go ahead and start. Andy at 885fm.org. Love to hear when people reach out about the radio station. Larry, where can people reach you?
I'm just going to give you one option. That would be Instagram. That's where I'm most active, the Larry Morgan. But also, I'm going to bring up again, if you are a fan of the sound and you like to hear wacky shenanigans and the morning show that should have been, listen to Andy, Josh, and sometimes Sam Farmer and I on Your Artificial Friends, anywhere you get podcasts. Subscribe to that. It's ridiculous, and we have a great time.
Speaking of podcasts, Dave Beasing is the king of them.
Well, Sound the Brands, we do for lots of brands podcasts, but I'm not on those, and so that's boring. But if somebody wants to do a podcast, I mean, not that it would be better if I was on them, but if somebody wants to do a podcast for a brand, soundthebrands.com. Thank you.
Awesome.
That's my plug.
Rita Wild.
I am doing a podcast now called Rock and Roll Confessional. I'm doing it with C.W. West, who was our promotion director at KLOS for many years. He's just somebody that makes me laugh, and it's good. We have a lot of fun. We have one up now with Paul Williams, and that was like kind of a really interesting, hearing his take, and then how his life changed and how he's a drug counselor and 30 years sober. And, just utmost respect for him. He's also one of the leaders of ASCAP. So that was really good. Have one coming up with John Anderson of Yes, which was really great. So it's keeping me busy, and I'm appreciating that. And listening to a lot of music and a lot of radio, and nice to see so many of you out there still working at it and doing it, and appreciate all of you and the time and the great memories that I have of you. Thank you.
Mimi, where can people get you?
Aside from 88.5 FM, and of course that's 88.5 FM.org, and it's Mimi at 885fm.org, or on Twitter, Mimi_the sound, and Instagram, PJ me.
Nice. And you can catch her, she didn't tell you the hours, but on Sundays on the 88.5 FM, you can catch her show, Peace, Love, and Sundays? Yep. No longer mornings.
Not at 1 o'clock.
Clearly, Andy is not promoting your show. Andy must not be promoting your show, Mimi, if he does.
Note to self, promote Mimi show. Joe, where can people reach out and get you?
There's a few websites. Anything that says Uncle Joe or Joe Benson on it does mine. So I think that's 30-some IRLs.
Nice.
Them all. I'm employed by Transquire, what do they call it, media. Ultimate Classic Rock is the thing that I do. It's evening shift, 7 to midnight, no matter whatever area code you're in. We got you covered on that.
Nice.
And I'm having a blast with it. The music that we did in sound we were in a very special place with the sound. And I can tell you, there's a real special place for that. And when it comes out now, I was planning on just trying to catch health and keep up with the kids.
One thing that was really important to me, and a lot of people can relate to it now, legacy. And, for me, it was real important that, the legacy of, being at KLOS and with Mark and Brian, and the legacy of the sound lived on, and it does. And there's nothing better than that. And so congratulations to all of you for being a part of that and keeping that spirit alive. That's great.
Yeah.
Who tells your story?
It was a special time. Larry Morgan, Uncle Joe Benson, Mimi Chen, Rita Wild, Dave Beasing. I am Andy Chanley, and I want to thank the folks at the Los Angeles Department of Recreation and Parks, Louise Capone, for asking us to get together and do this. Glad she gave us an excuse to get together. Next time, some masks in my backyard, all right? We'll have a barbecue. This has been a green room interview for the Los Angeles Department of Recreation and Parks. Take care, everybody. Be safe, and we'll be talking to you.